So I'm gonna make a nice recording for you and send it to you. So, but at any rate, welcome, Linc. Linc is here. We're online with we're simulcasting with in Shenzhen, China, with Leiford, who is product development and partner with Blug Planet, and David Yang. He's the proprietor and owner and CEO of eSmall International and Unisig. He owns a factory and he runs a well-to-do business. He's a guy that's been involved in the e-cig business since 2008. He's a good friend of mine. He's been a great host to me and a good friend of me in business and outside of the business in my travels to China. And I was just telling him he's going to be helping me, get some of the footage that we're going to hopefully use in your upcoming film project.
Absolutely. I'd love it, especially to be able to, because the history of e-cigs really starts in China. And it really is the core of the manufacturing industry for this, device that has changed a lot of people's lives, including mine. So I definitely would love to get some footage of the factories and really what the culture around e-cigs is in China.
Cool.
And Linc, I'm glad to see you here because I've been meaning to fill out that long form you've got on the contact form on your website, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So while you're here, I'd love to meet with you and participate however I can in your project.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, are you in China also, or?
I am. Shenzhen, China, over 2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, and listen, Leiford's got some camera skills too. I don't know if Leiford is actually he's the first review I ever saw. As a matter of fact, when I started vaping, I think it was only him. I could be wrong. Maybe he could tell me better, but there was...
Rat and the Hat started at about the same time.
Rat and the Hat, right. And what happened to him?
Sure
He started another forum, right?
First. But we were both very active in reviewing at the beginning there. He dropped out. Well, he did, but that didn't really take off. But he ended up smoking again. He relapsed and was out of the game, out of the whole e-cig scene for a while. He came back later, right about the same time that I started working in the industry. But I don't really know. We haven't stayed in touch. I don't know what he's up to these days.
Cool. You're running a little lag there too, Leiford, but it's okay. It seems to be catching up. You're fine. I heard everything you said. So
Good.
Linc, tell us about what you're doing, man. Where you're at? How's the project going? And
okay. Well, we're currently in pre-production, but that changes at Vape Bash in Chicago. We're going from pre-production and fundraising, finishing that off, and actually at Vape Bash starting our first principal filming portion of it. We're going to have multiple people from the United States, and also the Clearstream project from Italy is coming in to do an interview about their scientific study on air quality.
Yeah, we actually had them on the other stream.
Oh, excellent.
So we were talking to Marco a little bit. So
yep, that's exactly who we're saying. We're going to spend a couple hours and doing a nice long interview with him for inclusion in the film. For those people who don't know about the film, it's called We Are Vapers, and it is all about an exploration into tobacco harm reduction, and really telling the stories that the average John Q. public can understand, and to get real facts about electronic cigarettes out there, not the hype and the misconception that we often see coming out through the media, but true, honest stories about how e-cigarettes have affected people's lives, what we know about them, what we don't know about them, what real science is out there, and really combat some of the horrible myths and misrepresentation that we see from agencies like the Food and Drug Administration, the CDC, things along those lines.
And the American Cancer Society. That's the one that really ticks me off. I mean, the rest you can understand. They have a vested interest. The FDA gets a heck of a lot of money from from the tobacco companies and pharmaceutical companies. And the anti-tobacco groups obviously have their agenda. But the American Cancer Society, they should be on our side.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense.
Should be most of the what we call the ants should be on our side. But really, when you look at it, major source of funding for all of those organizations is the pharmaceutical world. And in my opinion, big tobacco is really not the enemy here. We actually align pretty well with the smokeless tobacco and the dissolvables and those type of items in the whole concept of harm reduction. It's the pharmaceuticals who are making $500 billion a year on cessation products that have less than 2% success rate.
Cool.
And the tobacco companies are just waiting to get into the game. As once the regulatory situation is settled, they're going to buy in a big way.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen at VaporCon 2011, R.J. Reynolds had people there trying to see what it was like, what type of devices people were using, how successful it was. So big tobacco will eventually take in, but just like big tobacco, they're really taking it slow and seeing what the regulation is going to come out.
Okay. So what can we do to help? How can people who are listening or whatever do to help? I just put a link into your thing, but what is it that you're working on right at the moment, Linc?
Yeah, so right at the moment we're in fundraising. So I've got an all-volunteer film production crew that is volunteering their time to help put this together. So there are a couple of ways that we're reaching out to people to help. The first is our fundraising campaign on Indiegogo.com /WeAreVapers. We are attempting to raise $20,000 to essentially cover travel expenses and some production equipment that is necessary. As far as the pure skill set, where the traditional cost of a movie comes, is in the editing and those type of things. We've got that covered with the talent of myself. I do compositing and editing, and we've got crew that are essentially in each location volunteering their time to help put this together. So the two ways you can do is go to Indiegogo.com /WeAreVapers and donate. We're looking to raise a minimum of $20,000. Right now, we're almost at the $15,000 mark. We've got, I believe, 9 days left. So at March 31st at 11:59 p.m., the campaign ends, and we're really pushing hard to try and gather that so that this can really kick off and start on the right foot. The second way people can help is volunteer to be part of the crew. Once we know how much money we've raised, we're going to post locations where we're going to be, and we're looking to fill out the crew so that really we have minimal travel expenses. In some locations, it's literally going to just be me and a car full of equipment showing up, and then getting volunteers to help set up lights, coordinate things along those lines.
Well, we dig it, man. We like that lean and mean fighting machine you got going on there. But
yeah, in the industry, we would call it shooting naked.
Right. Raw, naked stuff.
Yeah.
But listen, I just want to take a second and interrupt you there. I want to introduce Ellaine Keller, Vocalec. For those of you who don't know her, she's the president of CASAA. Hello, Ellaine.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
I can. Can everybody hear Ellaine?
I can hear her.
Perfect.
I'll do the Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Yeah, so Ellaine, thanks for taking the time and coming on. Happy World Vaping Day. In case you don't know, we're streaming with Shenzhen, China, with David Yang. We have Leaford, one of our, you know who Leaford is. You've been around long enough to know who Leaford is. And we have Linc from We Are Vapers. And it's a pleasure to have you, as always. And
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on with CASAA these days.
Well, let's see. I had an exciting week in Houston at the SRNT conference. That's the Society for Research on Nicotine and Tobacco. Quite a few scientific researchers there from all kinds of different fields: neurology, biology, psychology, psychiatry, you name it. And it was kind of interesting. It would be very nice if some of the scientists listened to each other, because it seems that all the psychiatrists gather in the psychological psychiatry types of places, and the ones doing hard and fast smoking cessation studies don't seem to grasp the fact that there are people who have problems trying to give up nicotine, that they become deeply depressed or anxious or have cognitive problems. And I'm one of those people. And it just seems like they've got this idea in their head that someday everyone will be able to quit smoking and quit using any form of tobacco, quit using any form of nicotine, and they will live happily ever after. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Didn't happen for me.
It's the typical
Me neither.
prohibitionist mindset.
Yes, but I think we're making a little bit of headway here and there. Did you all see the FDA report that came out on dissolvables today? It was in the news.
I have to be honest with you, Ellaine. I have been locked in front of this computer for 12 hours, and I haven't read. I've been a bad boy. I haven't read my CASAA emails yet today.
Well, the good news is the FDA actually, or should say the Scientific Advisory Committee, actually admitted that dissolvable tobacco products are probably likely to be much less hazardous than smoking. And that's the first time anyone has ever admitted that there's a tobacco product that isn't as hazardous as smoking.
And that story was picked up by Business Week, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. So it's starting to get some good exposure. And a good portion of that was because there were a group of people, myself and Ellaine included, who actually went out and testified.
Yep. And
well, good for you. I mean, that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, and what do you have another trip coming up soon too, as well, don't you, Ellaine?
Yes, at the end of May or third week in May, Bill Godshall and I will be going to the Tobacco Merchants Association conference. And it isn't exactly what it sounds like. To me, when I first heard the name, I thought it was a bunch of stores that sold tobacco products. But it's the entire industry. It's like tobacco growers and processors and people who make papers for cigarettes and filters and what have you. It's the entire industry. And they're having a huge, an entire day of this day-and-a-half seminar is devoted to tobacco harm reduction. And they're going to have some very well-known names in the research field presenting there, including my friend in Italy, Dr. Riccardo Pelosa, who did the e-cig study on people who didn't want to quit, and 22% of them quit anyway. And Dr. Brad Radu will be there. Carl Fagerstrom, who invented the little test that they give you to see how dependent you are on nicotine. He's changed his mind, and he wants to make that test show how dependent you are on cigarettes rather than tobacco or nicotine.
Excellent. And where's the conference at?
It's going to be held in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Ooh, I think I'm going to have to see if I can go.
Yeah, they have a. Go ahead, Ellaine. You're going to.
I was just going to say that there is a charge for admission.
Yeah,
but I'll send you an email about it.
Awesome, I would love that, because I think that's a good potential for some footage and actually get some people. A lot of scientists in one place.
Oh, did I mention that Dr. Deaton will be there from the FDA?
Oh, so that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like more information on that also. I'm going to be heading back into the States, and might be able to arrange to go stop by too.
Okay, Drew, can you send me his email information?
I will. I have it all here, and I'm actually going to send it. We were talking earlier to Marco from in the live stream, in my live stream, about their upcoming test. I think it's called Clearstream, It's the representative from
Flavor Art.
Flavor Art, exactly. He was on with us live earlier, and we had a chance to talk to him a little bit about what they're doing. I think it's great what they're doing, and that they're putting some of their money back into the industry, and I think it's a good thing. So he's also going to Vape Bash. So, and actually, Linc is going to be spending some time with him at Vape Bash with doing some filming and stuff. So it's all good. I think we're getting somewhere finally.
Yep.
Every once in a while, somebody listens. We just keep chipping away at them, folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all about getting it out in front of them. I mean, the more people that understand the real science behind it, the more people that can stand up and cry BS when you see these horrible representations that get put out there. I mean, one of the things that was the most shocking to me when I went to the FDA to testify on that, most of them had never seen an e-cigarette before. Most of them had never seen dissolvable tobacco. They had no idea. The questions they were asking, like, why would you ever use this? It just goes to show that ivory tower mentality that the people who are trying to figure out how to regulate and we should lead our lives are so isolated.
Okay.
Why would we ever want to use it?
I do want to object to the ivory tower mentality. It's more of an anti-science mentality, in my opinion, because I mean they are just so wrong on the science on so many of the myths that they've been promulgating for decades now. You know, like Ellaine was saying, it's taken till now for them to admit that any kind of tobacco product is less harmful than cigarettes. When every bit of scientific evidence shows exactly the opposite. That chewable tobacco, dissolvable tobacco, snus, and now e-cigs are much, much less harmful than cigarette smoking.
Yeah, and when I say ivory tower, to them, it's the prohibitionist mentality of they don't understand why a person would ever use nicotine or not want to get off of nicotine. It's this very simple. It's healthier, therefore you must do it. And to me, it's that that's why I call it ivory tower. They live in that tower. They're not grounded in reality.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but I just want to quickly say that much of the good scientific evidence in our favor is coming from people in those same ivory towers. Academia is not the enemy here. It is that demonization of nicotine which is the enemy, and I think that comes more from an anti-science place than from an intellectual ivory tower elitist place. But end of digression. Sorry.
Well, there are some other parts of the world where the smokeless tobacco products are not as safe as they are in the Western world. India, Africa, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of not only manufacturing, but quality control, as well as the crop itself.
Right. They add other things into tobacco as well. Some other plants.
There are some parts of Africa where they put in almost hallucinogenic type of plants. So it's a completely different type of experience.
Huh.
Gosh, I missed that one. And I grew up in the 60s.
Well, yeah, a lot of what
David's
they use
taking us for a little walk.
In hookahs, for example, or they use shisha, and the way it is cured, it does have a slight narcotic effect to it, very slight, but definitely noticeable.
I don't want to imply that it's like a hard illicit type of drug experience, but it definitely is different. Tobacco is different as soon as you go towards the Asian area.
Well, listen, it's a good thing I never got my hands on any of that, because I just would have never stopped if I had.
One day at a time, Drew.
Hookah is very good. It's very huge vapor.
Yeah. I mean, hookahs. I work at a place where literally right down the block there's a hookah bar, and it is pretty much 24 hours a day full. and it's very popular in the DC area.
All right. Well, Ellaine, thanks so much for coming in and enlightening us. Again, Ellaine is the president of CASAA, very active, works very hard. What can our listeners do to help CASAA, Ellaine?
Well, just keep in touch. Do join. We will put you on our mailing list for the monthly newsletter. We won't bother you, other than the monthly newsletter, we won't bother you unless there is some kind of an urgent action that needs to take place. Whenever there is a proposed law that would put the kibosh on anything, whether it's any safer alternative to smoking, whether it's e-cigarettes, whether it's they want to tax smokeless tobacco and make it more expensive than smoking, we need to be out there fighting. And CASAA posts a call to action, has a call to action page where you can look up what's going on in different parts of the country. And we also post on the forums to keep people informed as well. And
Fantastic.
Donate. Did I forget that?
No, I was going to say that because we need your money, but again too, we need participation. We need our we're trying to grow our membership. One of our slogans is "You are CASAA," and that's the people that are listening. We need membership. We need go to our webpage, sign up. We can send out like she said. We don't send out a tremendous amount. We don't sell your email. We don't share it with anybody. We send out pertinent information, calls to action in the area. There's a lot of people out there that can have a lot to offer and don't realize it. It's not a full-time job. It might be, a couple hours here and there. And it might just be, making some posts in the forum and letting people know, getting the word out about exactly what's going on in your area and also keeping us informed because we miss stuff. There's stuff that happens all the time that we get there a day late and a dollar short. And we have a great group of people that work very hard to stay on top of it. Unfortunately, we miss it. But we need eyes and ears and feet on the ground in the locations. We're a small, lean, mean operation, and like Linc, and we try to get as much done as we can, but we need help.
And Ron just posted that there are CASAA member meetings that are held every other Sunday from 7:30 to 9 Eastern Time.
Right. And, stop in. Give us your ideas. Give us your input, and we definitely need you.
And if you haven't been before, just send an email to board@casaa.org, and we'll send information to you about how to get into that meeting.
Yeah, Ron's going to put a link in the chat for that now, I'm sure, because he's sharp like that. And
he's on top of things.
And please, we need your help. And Ellaine, thank you very much. I'm going to bring another guest in. Thank you for taking your time and getting your camera on and everything.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. And for some of the folks that don't know, CASAA works very hard at fighting the bans and putting the information out there. And they've got such little capacity and funding to be able to do it. But these are all folks who aren't taking a paycheck for it. They're actually out there because they believe in this and want to do it. So any support that you can give to them, whether it's forwarding the information, volunteering to help build some pamphlets, or donating money, any little bit helps, and it goes a long way.
Drew, Linc, you guys have inspired me. Ellaine, let's talk after the broadcast.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to my partners and see if we can arrange maybe a fundraiser sale for you. If you guys are accepting donations from merchants, because if I remember right, back when CASAA started, you didn't. In order to keep yourself.
Listen, we will definitely take your money. Don't worry about that. But we actually just had a board meeting last night where we talked about where we were setting up some guidelines, and we don't want to. We don't necessarily. We definitely want to get donations from vendors, but we don't want necessarily people to be necessarily naming products after us and that sort of thing, because we voted early on that there could show conflict of interest as we get further down the road. But absolutely, we definitely would appreciate any help we can get. And again, sometimes it's like not to say we certainly wouldn't ask you to share your mailing list, but when you throw out your newsletter, throw in something about CASAA and what's going on, and it gets out to areas. It's a big help. Some of our the biggest help we've had have been from people in the community that alert us to different things and that sort of thing. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I remember way back, when you guys first started CASAA, seeing the initial announcements and the eSig forum and all that, and just the way you guys have grown, the performance that you've had, the difference you've made in a lot of these state initiatives that you've helped get stopped. Really fantastic job, and I'm sorry I haven't been more involved before now. But I'm going to talk to my partners. I'm going to try to arrange something to help you guys out.
That sounds great.
It's a wonderful job.
Fantastic. All right, Ellaine, I'm going to let you go. Thanks again.
Okay.
Toodaloo, kisses, hugs.
Do you need me to hang up?
No, I'm going to hang up on you. I just wanted to give you kisses and hugs.
Okay. Kiss back.
All right. Bye-bye, honey.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to try and bring in Lou from the great Sedona, Arizona.
Mr. RedRock hiker.
RedRock hiker. He's the man. Now, listen, you ask this guy a question. Keep in mind, he is going to give you a clear, concise answer. This is a guy who is a wealth of information. I wish I could find his... He's a wealth of information. He's a group waiting to happen. RedRock hiker, NebulaBrat. I think that's his most popular handles. Oh, I'm not going for some reason.
The forum is complaining that it's turning into a love fest. So I'm promising them that I'm going to start channeling my inner cynic and be a bit more critical.
Lou, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time, pal. It's good to see you.
Oh, happy to be here. It's World Vaping Day.
Yes, it is. Happy World Vaping Day to you.
Enjoying a vape.
Cool. So yeah, one of the reasons why for those who are paying attention to what's going on these days, not unlike me, I call Lou up every couple days and ask him what's going on. But Lou has some ideas that. Well, number one, Lou is a principal supporter of We Are Vapers. I'm probably saying it wrong. He's got something to do. He's going to be
Lou's a writer and a executive producer on it.
Cool. So that's what Lou's going to do, and I wanted to bring him in. He's a strongly opinionated member of our community, and he's always getting in there and getting involved and staying abreast of things. And I certainly wanted to give him the opportunity to come in on World Vaping Day and talk about what's going on and some of his ideas. I've heard some of them, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to share some of them.
Drew, what makes you think I have any opinions?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's like a sneaky feeling I get sometimes when I talk to you. I just, so yeah, we were talking the other day, and he was bringing up some interesting points about the evolution of vaping and some of the terminology we were using, and I would try and repeat some of the words he said, but honestly, they were a little bit over my head. So I'm going to let him go off on it.
Well, it was an interesting conversation. It's one that I've had with Linc and Dimitri and several other people, and I just think that part of the battle that we're facing is this constant association with tobacco. And I think that the reality is that what we're doing here with vaping, this is not tobacco. We're not smoking anything. We're not burning any tobacco. So while these started out being called electronic cigarettes, we've continued to maintain that terminology. And I'm not convinced that that's necessarily helping the direction that we're trying to go. We're trying to kind of disassociate ourselves from tobacco and say this is tobacco harm reduction. We're vaporizing. We're not smoking. We're not burning tobacco. And the reality is these things are personal vaporizers. So we're not going to just change it overnight. We're not going to all of a sudden say, they're not e-cigs. Because they are electronic cigarettes to some extent. That's where it started. But the industry has evolved, and we're dealing with a potential regulatory environment that is going to continue to be an ongoing process. And the more we continue to reinforce the association with tobacco by continuing to say e-cigs, in my opinion, is doing kind of our effort a little bit of a disservice. If we could start to try to get the community to use terminology that's a little bit more consistent with our focus. Another one is the term mods. Early on in the development of personal vaporizers, what we call e-cigs, there were a lot of modification type devices where people were taking flashlights and laser lights and all kinds of other things that were never designed to be personal vaporizers. And they modified them to make them into personal vaporizers. And I think that that's where the term mods or modification really came from. And today we still see some forms of modifications. We still see battery boxes and plastic boxes and people making custom devices that are becoming personal vaporizers or PVs. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with, when we start looking at some of these different devices, these are not modified from anything. These were made specifically for this purpose, vaping. And there's nothing modified in them whatsoever. So now we're starting to face an issue of these batteries. And we start talking about what's happening with safety in batteries. And obviously it raised a big scare. And so by continuing to use the terminology and continuing to say mods when we're talking about, for example, just one example, something like this, where this has all kinds of safety features that are built into it. Not only does it have short circuit protection and low battery protection, this is a Darwin, and it's got smart charge circuitry to prevent overcharging the batteries, and it's got venting with open spaces down the side, and it's got screws in the back that are easily popped off. So if there's any pressure inside, the screws can pop off. I mean, there's nothing modified here. And to call this a mod when we're dealing in an arena, in an environment where people are starting to get scared and talking about people putting things together and are they using the right batteries, the industry is moving in a direction where we're starting to address some of these concerns inherently in the manufacturing process. So it just seems to me that it's really important that we start collectively kind of focusing on what we're saying and how we're saying it. And I guess I would kind of wrap that up with, there's an entire field of philosophy called NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it's taught, there are people that train in this area. There are people in sales that are taught to use it, and motivational speakers and politicians are taught to use it. And it has to do with the words that we choose and how we say them, and what we say them affects how we come across to our audience. And we've got a big issue here, and I think we need to start kind of paying attention a little bit more carefully to what we say and how we're saying it.
So, Lou, I'm going to chime in on this. You and I have gone, our opinions back and forth. Well, I agree I don't like e-cigarette. I also acknowledge the fact that there still needs to be an association in its early phase to attract smokers. That's why I prefer smokeless or smoke-free type of things, because one, it sends a message across that this is not smoke, but it's also something that still cigarette smokers can relate to and do it. When I talk to people and I say it's a personalized vaporizer, they look at me and they go, "What's that?" So there's a balance, and I think it has to be kind of an evolution that goes to it. And the second thing is, I think the biggest change comes when the manufacturers and the suppliers and the vendors start changing the names on them. Right now, in my opinion, a lot of them are called e-cigarettes because they're trying to capitalize on search engines.
Good point. Good point. And I brought that up to Lou in our conversation. There's a certain element that it's hard for a business to start calling electronic cigarettes, personal vaporizers. However, I do that's what I use on my site and have for quite a while, and it wasn't really to try and change terminology. Honestly, it was because there was, at that time there was something going on with people saying that there was going to be a negative light on e-cig. So I went through and changed, a lot of the names to personal vaporizers and, to change it. But there's a certain, as a supplier and for other suppliers, there's a certain search engine optimization that you lose. But, I agree with Lou. It's if we all started doing it, if it was a concerted effort to start calling it, and very importantly with mods, because mods is for, they might have some trade names that are enhancing SEO and that sort of thing. But particularly with mods and even with the, e-cigs, there's going to be something lost, but I think you can maintain your SEO with strategic use of AdWords and tag words and stuff like that to keep it going. But the industry overall as a whole, I think it's a great idea, and it'll definitely it's something that we should focus on, which is one of the reasons why I thought it was important to bring Lou in here and let him talk about that.
And Lou and I 100% agree on mods. I think mods is a horrible
terminology
name.
Is something that the debate over terminology goes, way back to the early days of the online community, the early days of ECF, and even the Dutch forum, which was the largest e-cig forum that I was able to find before ECF took off. My position has always been that language is something that changes and evolves on its own. Right now, e-cigarettes is the term. That's the term that most people are familiar with. That's the term that the non-vapers, the current smokers, are going to be able to relate to. That will change in time, but back then, I felt that we were kind of spitting in the wind to try to change it ourselves. Since then, I've kind of changed my position, partly because the term personal vaporizers has taken off in the e-cigarette online community, and partly because I've learned more about civil rights movements and so forth, and how those movements use those same and neuro-linguistic programming kind of techniques to seize the whole debate, seize the dialogue by changing the terminology. I do think, you're right, Lou, that it is something that we need to do. It is something that can be done. But I still kind of feel like it may be a bit too early to push it too hard, because we're still trying to reach the mainstream audience. We're still trying to reach the current smokers. And as long as that's the main goal, and at least that's my main goal, is to spread e-smoking as far as we can to current smokers, to convert as many as we can, as quickly as we can, we need that recognizable terminology. We need, like Linc was saying, if we say personal vaporizers, they go, huh? If we say electronic cigarette, they go, oh, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. And I, as I said, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I'm really more looking to just kind of plant the seed. When people ask me what I'm doing, I say it's a smoking alternative. And then I say, have you ever heard of electronic cigarettes? And I say, well, this is a much more advanced version of that, and we call it a personal vaporizer. So I kind of take them through a couple of steps before but I don't push it too hard. And I don't think that we should push too hard. I agree with you completely. I agree with what Linc is saying. I agree with Drew. All of we're really in what I would call kind of a heated agreement, because it is a transition that's going to take time.
Yeah. So we're back. So we're back to contest again. Okay, we were trying to turn it towards more of a cynical direction. Okay, so let me take a hard and harsh disagreement with you on neurolinguistic programming. While that is a field that has some validity to it, there's also a lot of pseudoscience wrapped up in neurolinguistic programming. It's being misused by a lot of people who want to say that you can actually mind control someone using NLP techniques, and that's just total bunk.
Everybody knows you need alcohol.
I agree with you completely, but there is some validity to the theory. It's just how it's being used. You could say the same thing with hypnotherapy. There's stage hypnotherapy and entertainment hypnotherapy, and then there's therapeutic hypnotherapy. So there are layers upon layers within each of these fields. But I do believe that there is some validity to some aspects of NLP. And I just think it's something we need to kind of be aware of and be focusing on. It's not going to change overnight.
Listen, I find this whole conversation extremely hypnotizing. I am.
Well, we're really talking about a paradigm shift. No, I'm sorry, I just had to throw out
Well, we pull up a shiny new PV and you get hypnotized. So.
Yeah. Oh, what's that? Something shiny going by there. Oh,
it's just like the battle is in how you frame the debate, and you do that with the terminology you use. You know, it makes a big difference whether you call it the Affordable Care Act or whether you call it Obamacare. You know, the terminology you use does make a difference in how it's going to be perceived by the public. You know, right now, the terminology that the public is going to respond to is e-cigarette. But you're right. We do need to change that and push it towards the personal vaporizer direction. And maybe, you know, like you're suggesting, or at least if I understand it correctly, you're suggesting maybe using personal vaporizers as the term for mods and leaving the term for the cigarette-size e-cig as e-cigarette. Maybe that's the way to go for now.
It's just something that's worthy of discussion. I mean, my main concern with the term mods really came up a lot more when this whole battery issue arose. And there's a big difference between something that people are slapping together in their garage and the question of whether or not there's electrical shorts, whether batteries are being used properly, and when we start getting away from some of the more risky battery concerns. I mean, I caught some of the Vapor Trails program and the discussion about the ECF issue, and frankly, I have some concerns about what ECF is doing. I have a lot of respect for ECF, and I participate actively in ECF. At the same time, I don't know that it's really wise for ECF to be getting in the middle of that issue and to start approving devices and saying it should have this much of a ventilation or it should have that. I would much rather see ECF just kind of come right out and say, from all of our exposure in this industry, we believe that stacking batteries in series is an unnecessary risk and we don't recommend it. And just kind of drawing the line right there. And if they want to create some links to some better battery education like Battery University or some other battery links, I think that's a wise thing to do. But I think it's really a mistake to start saying we approve this device and we don't approve that device, because there's no way to control what somebody's going to do, whether or not they're paying attention to how they're charging their batteries, whether or not they're leaving batteries on a non-smart charger overnight, whether they're paying attention to how far they're draining their batteries and monitoring them on a regular basis with multimeters to see how well they're holding their charges. So here they have a situation where they approve a device that's now an approved device. But someone does something stupid and there's a problem.
Yeah, and
so,
I think that,
and just the whole aspect that this is an organization. This is a forum is an organization. It's basically a company. They are drawing revenue from the e-cigarette retailers that subscribe to them as sponsored sponsoring suppliers. I forget the term they use, but so they are getting money from e-cigarette retailers, and they're approving some and not approving others, and that brings up whole issues of bias and it's a dicey area. I got to agree with you on that.
Well, this is, to me, this is a prime example of this community's strongest virtue, and also its worst virtue is overpassion.
All right, listen.
Something
Could I just interrupt you for a minute because I'm running a little weird here on time, and I want to just say to David, thank you very much, man, for taking the time, getting up early in the morning, and coming in. And I can't wait to see you soon. I wish I had some more time to go over some more stuff with you, but I have to bring somebody in. Excuse me, from the UK. So, David, again, thank you very much. Everybody, E-Small International, David Yang, a great supplier, honorable. You know, you hear all this stuff about Chinese suppliers and everything. This guy is a great guy, tremendous help. Contact him, E-Small International. Anything you need, the guy is always available, and he has a tremendous business going.
Whenever you come to China, just give me a call. We'll be with you, and try to enjoy some good time here. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks so much, brother. Good to talk to you, bro, and I'll talk to you later today, man.
Okay, talk later.
All right, thanks, bro.